from us individually, globally, organization-wise is suffering from, actually I'll use this word, that suffering from that transformation, because some are doing it with their interest, some with, like say, the economical pressure and the entire need of the time. So keeping in the view this, I think some of our country mates have made some startups and very good initiatives with reference to that. So I'll call my next speaker, Mr. Syed Ahsan, the Managing Director of Golootlo. So the name shows it's a big offer for everybody. So after that session, we'll be going with Mr. Ahsan Aslam and we'll try to rob them. So Golootlo. So I'll welcome onto the stage Mr. Ahsan Aslam to please come onto the stage and take the initiative to proceed forward. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, a very good morning. Thank you Square Talks team for having me here. So the topic today is an interesting one. I will share some insights. Primarily this wasn't a speculative topic, considering we are talking about what can be the impact of super apps. We have been hearing about super apps, I believe for quite some time now, 5, 6, 7 years. That there are super apps which make change, rather they bring change in the economy, and they are the economic drivers. So just to start a bit about Golootlo, and then we will dive into the actual topic. So our tagline is Cash se Sasta. The idea is we are a merchant-specific company. We target merchants. We have a lot of different category merchants which we have onboarded, and we try to bring value to the consumers by negotiating deals, and that is extended to all our customers, which come from banks, payment schemes, EMIs, PSO, PSPs. And primarily what our drive has been is to ensure people use our discounts but digitally. So that's the basic objective, that once we create that habit across the board, people would be interested in avoiding cash and going digital. And then with the kind of services which we plan to onboard on our platform, we would be able to transform a certain segment of a customer base into digital users. So we have been at it for 5 to 6 years. Our numbers, we have close to 21,000 plus merchants, 16 million app users. They are spread across our app, our partners app, MNOs, telcos. We have merchants in 165 cities. 10 million debit cards. This is the bank base which we are targeting for this year to achieve that target, where we are able to offer our services to 10 million debit card base. That's spread across PayPal, which is our domestic payment scheme, Union Pay, which is the China Union Pay scheme, and then there are other banks which we have, which are close to 20 states. In a nutshell, this is what the kind of value add we have in the market. So because we have our partner KFC, so I just gave this example. So if you go and buy 2 zingers, they will cost you $11.60, but if you use our services, you will get it for $5.80. So that's the kind of value add you get, and based on this is our incentivization and awareness, due to which people should see the value and then convert into using things which are based out of apps, and then pay digitally as well, which is the eventual game plan. We have been purely a partnership company, may it be the merchants, may it be banks, may it be telcos, wallets, then we have those partners like OneLink, we have PayActive, which is a Silicon-based company. Call Sign, which is an authentication company. Then we have two schemes, bigger names. PIA is our partner, KFC, JDOT. So we are spread across all verticals in the market, and that's our value add, that it's not a specific seasonal discount or value add, it's a 365 days offer. So if you have our services, you get to avail whatever these entities are offering across the whole year. So yeah, now getting to the topic, super apps. We have been hearing about super apps, so I will just take a step back on what all super apps are there in the market, what kind of functionality do they offer, and then we talk about what kind of impact they have. So primarily you have two kinds of super apps, and then we have aggregators, which time and again we tend to believe that they are more or less the same. So what happens is, we have heard about Uber, Paytm, WeChat. I will talk about WeChat in detail because that's one success story which always comes up when we talk about super apps. These are Alipay, Meituan, Baidu. These are primarily coming out of Far East, and Far East have been an infrastructurally more developed region than we are, or even the West is, because they drive their value adds from a lot of cultural angles. So when we talk about WeChat, we talk about Alipay, or I will talk about Line from Japan. They mobilize their whole socio-culture angle to it, and then that's where the people started using it across the board. And then we have these aggregators which primarily, like, they don't create their own services, they primarily bring everyone on board. So Booking.com, most of us must have used it till now. Then we have Trivago, Booking.com being a travel portal, giving you hotels and flights and everything. But then on top of it, you got Trivago, which actually started becoming a super aggregator. So they aggregate Expedia, Booking.com. So the business models have evolved over time. So now in this era, if you are an aggregator, you will see that there are super aggregators coming in, which create another layer on top of it, because there is the market is so big, you can't really capture it alone. So a bit about what these major super apps in the world do and how they have achieved these successes. So WeChat, 1.2 billion users, monthly active users, and that's a huge number. That's like 78% of the population of China. Malaysia grabbed 125 million. And when we talk about a monthly active user, it's primarily somebody who has used one of your services. It can be non-financial, it could be financial transaction, but they have used your app. Imagine the kind of traffic these applications attract, and this attraction can't be really just because they are super apps. They have sexy features which people use and they feel that it's good to have. These are actually covering the complete verticals of various payments, various interactions between users. So WeChat started off as a messaging app, converted into pretty much everything you do in China. If you have WeChat, you're pretty much sorted. When you talk about Line in Japan, gaming and stickers, this was what they started off, and then eventually diversified into everything: live streaming, food delivery. Food delivery is a thing right now. Even in Pakistan, a lot of entities, even ourselves, we are diversifying into delivery business. Because that's the kind of convenience right now our country is also looking into. But when you talk about, for example, Paytm, that's one name which comes when you talk about digital payments. Because due to the demonetization of currency in India, right place and right time for Paytm. So they shot up, they have 150 million active users. So all in all, the reason to show this is The only thing super in a super app is not the features, not the UI UX per se, but users. If you have users at this scale, that's what makes you super. You can't really claim that you're a super app if you have 100, 200 features, but you don't have users to use it. This is an interesting one, and I will share the references in the end because this is primarily a research which we did as part of this exercise. So evolutionary path. Imagine Rappi. This is in Colombia. Started as a food and beverage application. Went into payments. Went into entertainment. Into travel. Paytm, prepaid mobile credit. Eventually ending up running everything in India. You have Line messenger app, simple messenger app, and their claim to fame was in Japan. You have this concept of stickers. So the ones in WhatsApp, when we use these emojis and everything, they have been using these stickers to convey their messages, and that's where this app was so good at it, and eventually covered reward streaming, food delivery, gaming, and everything. Grab, most of us might have heard about it, ride-hailing entity, but now runs a complete wallet, runs delivery. They are into delivery now as well, which is like the under 10 minutes or under 20 minutes delivery. So all these entities have evolved, and to be fair, they have been on the horizon for almost like a decade. So one more misconception which we see in general discussions is that something which comes in and just captures the market. That's not the case. They have all been into evolution. A lot of entities have actually failed as well. These are only the success stories. A lot of entities came in and then they just faded away. What are the building blocks? So primarily when I said if you are a super app, the super part is covered because you have users. But building blocks, yes, superior delightful customer interactions, the analytics. One aspect which is data is to customize the services, and these applications, their success is, it stems out of making sure the services are customized to a particular segment. So may it be the youth, may it be the elderly, depending on what kind of target audience you have, that's how they pitch their services to everyone. One more thing which is prevalent now in the world is, apart from the Chinese variants, which are WeChat, Alibaba, which tend to run their own ecosystem 100%, like they develop their own apps and they do. And then they moved into this scenario where they started attracting others, third parties, to develop something for their platform. So an example would be something similar to Play Store or Apple Store, that you have your own specifications. People come and create applications, they get it certified and then they put it on the platform. So partnerships, it's pretty clear, even in Pakistan or in China or in anywhere in the world, you as a single player can't do it. The market is too huge. You would have your strengths, but you will have to leverage and find some sort of partnerships, competition, where you compete as well as cooperate to bring something which scales. Because if you don't grow the pie, normally if you try to capture the consumer base of your partners, that's not going to work, and it never works, especially at this point in time in the world. And obviously an IT or technology infrastructure which is so open and so easy to integrate that you don't really feel the hold up. Just to touch about what we are facing maybe in Pakistan is, maybe that's one area which we need to look into, because the openness and the maturity of our technology stack is where a lot of other things stem out. If we are not able to be agile, a lot of experimentation doesn't happen, and if you don't experiment, you can't actually deliver something which is of high frequency engagement because by the time you do it, you have already diluted the market. So these are the macro drivers in the digital financial world right now. This is not an exhaustive list, but I will just touch upon why I included all of these. When we talk about the digital world, e-commerce is a challenge in Pakistan as well. So either access to finance is not there or trust is not there. So still 80% in Pakistan works out on cash on delivery because there is no trust on the system. So the system needs to be mature enough, and I'm not saying the technology as a system, I mean to say the ecosystem per se has to have trust factors built in which ensure consumers are protected, merchants are protected. Otherwise, you can't scale. Decentralized finance, apologies for the formatting issue. This is something which is, we have been hearing about Bitcoin, blockchain, but now the umbrella term uses decentralized finance. This has more to do with a distributed ledger which runs on various, let's say various business use cases. And the interesting thing about this is now you have heard about NFTs, you have heard about Ethereum, which is not technically a currency per se, but it has an intrinsic value. So this is where the world is moving. We are a bit behind, I would like to say, but this is something which one way or the other would make a dent into whatever is happening right now. Digital wallets and super apps, yes, we have all kinds of variants, even in Pakistan, in across the world. They are actually creating a lot of access to finance which our conventional banks or institutions were not able to, because they had to go to a target audience which was underserved, underprivileged, and then they wanted to capture that market. So that this is what even our topic is. This is there. Payment rails. Primarily, when we talk about payment rails, and if I reflect upon how Pakistan runs, we do have payment rails. But right now, payment rails is something in developed countries which is considered a hygiene, which means it's a given. It's already there. You don't need to go and do something about the payment rails just because you have thought about an innovative use case. If this is missing or if this is not up to the mark, this will stop you from growing quickly. Digital ID and credit worthiness. Across the board, a lot of you must have heard about BNPL. It's the new thing, buy now, pay later. Credit worthiness is something which across the world you have to give people funds to spend, right? That's how the velocity of money increases. That's how the rolling in the economy comes into play. So that is one area which a lot of entities are working, but this is something which the digital payments players tend to right now they haven't worked on this. This is primarily an area where you have in the developed countries you have private credit scores. As long as you have a consumer history somewhere, they rate you, and that's the basis on getting some sort of a credit to buy things. And then one major aspect is financial fraud, which from day one has been very high, which actually dents the trust factor. And this is where a lot of technology solutions do exist. All kinds of fraud monitoring and fraud detection softwares are there, but this is more now into social engineering. So even in Pakistan, we have been hearing about people getting calls that give us your OTP and things like that. So that's where if in a country or an industry, if this is something which is prevalent, or at least it's perceived to be prevalent, all other drivers are impacted because there is no trust in the system, and you would not be able to gain those kinds of numbers of monthly active users like 1.2 billion, which WeChat has. A bit on why super app do make a change even in those countries. So what's happening is the core functionality, as we saw, either it is messaging, either it's payments. A lot of companies run their use case as a payments app, and that payment is their use case, that's the product. But if you talk about business in general, payments is just one factor which makes the experience, or rather let's say the purchase seamless or less friction. So engaging core functionality, that's one. Cost synergies, customer acquisition cost right now for any startup is massive. So you have seen all these super apps or startups burning money, all kinds of marketing is happening, all kinds of deals come in. You talk about any entity, even if it is not in Pakistan, outside of Pakistan, you would see that this is the hidden cost which the entity knows that they are burning cash. On the front of the consumer, you see all kinds of fancy stuff, giveaways, events and everything. But this is where your feasibility becomes a question. So if you can't sustain, burn model would not take you anywhere if you don't have a proper business commercial model. If your business commercial model is not there. So when you talk about financial impact, the impact comes when you have these sorted out. And again, adjacent features, meaning there has to be a product market mix which you have achieved through partnerships. You can't do it yourself. So this is just very high level factors which I believe would be playing a role in creating some sort of a transformation. So how do they contribute to business growth? So if we were to have a super app in Pakistan, how do we see it will create? And there are certain players in the market who have achieved one or two or three of these. So increased reach, the more burn is happening, the more awareness is happening, the more users are being created. One factor which I have not added is COVID-19. I think that is one factor which has actually superseded a lot of effort which was done before it, because invariably people converted to digital. We have seen state-backed numbers in Pakistan and even across the world. The shift from conventional to digital has happened, and that momentum is picking up as well. So I will only talk about data-driven marketing in terms of now when you engage so much with the consumers, you have social media platforms where you can gain data. You have your own applications where you capture all kinds of data, and that's where you go targeted. So if you are able to target your audience properly, you would get the benefit. Competition models, meaning any big super app you apart from the Chinese variant, as I mentioned. When you talk about, let's say, Venmo is a very popular wallet, works pretty well in the West. It uses Plaid. Now, what is Plaid? Plaid is a technology platform which runs all kinds of integration for Venmo on the back end. So the embedded services are there which themselves have become so big, and they themselves have a business case to run. So the idea is, when you talk about super app, they might not be the only elements in the equation which are adding value. There are so many other ancillary services which are getting added, and once they get added, the whole proposition becomes very fruitful, very attractive, and the consumer experience, UI UX, gets better because So just to share, somebody shared a meme with me. The difference between UI UX. The UI was a baby crib having these stuffed animals hanging, So on the top you look and there are 4 or 5 toys hanging and you look, it's beautiful. This was UI, right? But the UX was the baby looks at all these animals and the kid only sees the asses of those animals. So I mean to say that the experience of the user was totally disregarded. The toy, you are looking at it and you are happy that the UI is very good. So those embedded services are where the game is going right now. A lot of entities have established themselves, but to mature their services, to build confidence of users, they are bringing in. We have call sign, for example. We use that technology. It actually detects what kind of behavior you have on your mobile app. And based on that, it decides whether you are the person who is using your mobile app or not. So imagine if I were to go and try to develop that technology. That's not my forte, but I can always shake hand and bring something which just covers my fraud, helps me get a better user experience out of it, because the user, and I don't have to tell the user that I'm doing this because I need to secure you. So all of that adds up. Yeah, the question is this a tempest in a teapot? I think the discussion, whether it is a super app or not, doesn't make much. Yes, we have been discussing, and a lot of you might not agree that this is happening, this intermediation of banks. But banks are not going anywhere. They have their own roles, and I would tend to believe that right now it doesn't matter. But what matters is if you have a user base. As long as you have a user base, you are successful. Now on the other side, market is large enough. Data privacy and security, that is, I think, whether you are a bank, conventional, legacy, entity, innovative, startup, this is something which is denting everyone, because every user, for example, if my cost of acquisition is 100 rupees, I lose one customer, I lose 100. Whereas I had projected that I will make maybe a LTV of 1,000 rupees from that user. So that's how I see it. Pockets, I can only talk about Pakistan because we have been part of so many conferences where we talk about the should, could and would dilemma, that if this was there, this would have happened. But overall, in the past several years, a lot has happened and a lot has been delivered in the market as well. So I will talk about, and I missed one as well, but OneLink may be a thankless job, but and I might be biased because I was previously with OneLink, but the impact this entity has is huge. Easy Paisa, hands down, they brought in something which created users, which created a service which became in demand. The commercial model might be questionable at this point in time, but yes, I would say they're doing a great job. Kareem, again, we don't see taxis in Karachi now. Pretty much everything, the whole landscape is changed. Regulator, in terms of a lot of criticism comes on regulator that they could have done more, but again, that could is something which we should ignore. In the past few years, where at least I have been involved with the regulator, they have been forthcoming, they have been listening to the industry. So that's a move which is good for the economy, because now we are having conducive debates with the regulator how things can be changed. Quick pay. The reason to put all of these is minus the regulator is primarily because these are the entities which started something, and this has grown into a complete business case, or they have created something on basis of which the industry has moved to the next level. Quick pay might not be that big, but they, at least in my opinion, were the first billing aggregators. And right now we have 6-7 of them in the market, but the legwork these guys did and the kind of awareness these guys created in the market, I would tend to rate them very high. Data check, this is the consumer rating part. This has been there for a long time. Might not have evolved to that level, but right now this is the only consumer level credit score you have in the market. I hope because the economy would go to the next level if we are able to extend credit. Banks are trying to do it. Nano and micro loans, we get messages from all banks right nowadays. So that's my view on Pakistan. As I said, this was primarily across a lot of research, thanks to people who have done scholarly work, consulting firms. So I just added the references because I would like the audience to know that this is not my thought process. I just accumulated a lot of information which I came across. So yeah, and that's it. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahsan, giving some explorative explanation on such interactive solutions and wind it up in a very well manner. So my next speaker is